The encounter begins quietly, but tension is already present as officers approach after receiving a call about someone looking into vehicles. The questions start casually, almost routine, but the atmosphere shifts when the man refuses to engage. He offers no explanations and no excuses, repeating the same calm response again and again. "I don't answer questions." The words are steady, controlled, and intentional. This moment isn't about proving guilt or innocence. It's about understanding rights and choosing silence over speculation. As the camera continues to record, the scene becomes a subtle standoff, a reminder that in real-life encounters like this, knowing when not to speak can be The conversation drifts further into tension as the officer presses for basic information, even a name, and the refusal remains firm. There's no hostility, just a clear boundary that won't be crossed. The man redirects the moment, pointing out vehicles with expired tags nearby, almost testing where authority truly applies. Questions of public versus private space hang in the air, along with who pays for what and who has jurisdiction. Voices rise slightly, not in anger, but for the camera to catch every word. As background music fades in, the scene captures something familiar, a quiet clash between curiosity and control, all unfolding under the unblinking lens of a recording camera. The tension escalates as frustration begins to surface on both sides. The officer frames the encounter as concern, not confrontation, explaining that a citizen reported someone looking into cars amid a recent string of break-ins. The setting becomes important now. This isn't police property, but the authority to question still hangs heavy in the air. Accusations replace curiosity. Words like investigation and no good are introduced, shifting the tone entirely. A name is finally given, but the pressure doesn't ease. Questions keep coming, sharper and more direct. As the camera continues to record, the moment captures a familiar turning point, when a routine stop becomes a test of patience, perception, and how quickly suspicion can take control of a situation. The moment reaches a breaking point when silence turns into a direct question, "Am I being detained?" The answer comes quickly, and with it, the tension spikes. Detained, but without clarity. Voices rise as the demand for a reason grows louder, sharper, and more urgent. The explanation finally arrives, wrapped in uncertainty, suspicion of tampering with motor vehicles. Not evidence. Not proof. Just suspicion. The word hangs in the air as both sides push back, each asserting authority in different ways. One side relies on procedure, the other on constitutional boundaries. As the camera captures every exchange, the scene becomes more than an argument. It's a live demonstration of how quickly suspicion can justify restraint, and how knowing the law becomes the only defense when questions turn into detainment. The exchange drifts from tense to confrontational as the meaning of suspicion is challenged again and again. A crime is questioned, then dismissed, while explanations circle back on themselves. Bystanders appear, curiosity turning the moment into a spectacle, though no one seems impressed by what's unfolding. Insults slip out, frustration showing through the uniforms. Still, the reason never changes. A call came in, a description matched, and suspicion followed. The narrator watches as the justification is repeated, slower this time, almost rehearsed. Detained not for what was proven, but for what might have happened. As the camera keeps rolling, the scene exposes a familiar reality: how easily suspicion becomes enough to stop someone, and how hard it is to get a straight answer once that line is crossed. The situation unravels fast as voices rise and control slips away. A bystander steps in, words flying, tempers flaring, and suddenly the focus shifts from questions to confrontation. Threats of obstruction are tossed around, challenged just as quickly, exposing how thin the line has become. Demands are made for identification, even without a clear reason, fueling more resistance and frustration. The encounter turns chaotic, no longer calm or procedural, but reactive. At the center of it all is one constant: a man insisting he doesn't want to be detained, and officers insisting they're still figuring things out. As the camera captures every second, the moment becomes a lesson in how quickly authority, ego, and misunderstanding can turn a simple call into a volatile standoff. confrontation hits its peak with sharp words and mounting frustration. The accusation, tampering with vehicles, sparks immediate denial and defiance. The man insists he's done nothing wrong, refusing to cooperate, challenging the legitimacy of the investigation. Tensions boil over as threats about legal immunity and lawsuits are thrown back and forth. He sits calmly, unyielding, while officers tower, armored and armed, trying to assert control. A brief attempt at reason emerges. An officer tries to explain the situation. A call came in, a description matched, and now they're here to investigate. Yet the man shuts it down, unwilling to listen. But then, just as quickly, the tone shifts. No damage is found. No crime confirmed. And suddenly, the moment dissolves. He's free to go. The scene spirals into frustration and sharp exchanges as the man demands to be left alone, pointing out that the officers are blocking a fire lane for a non-emergency. Insisting it's not harassment but lawful detention, the officers press on, but the man remains defiant, dismissing their authority and refusing to follow directives. The back and forth grows heated, questions about seriousness of the detainment, threats of arrest, and outright refusals fill the air. Then, as abruptly as it began, the tension releases. He's dismissed, free to go. This isn't just a clash of wills. It's a vivid example of how police often layer multiple accusations, hoping one will stick, while those asserting their rights face the fine line between respect and